Any second now.
Uncensored Radio, Real Talk Roundtable. Real life, real laughs, real talk.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, good King Wenceslas. I don't know, wherever you are. Welcome to Uncensored Radio. UCR live. Oh no. Whoop.
Not UCR live.
Whoa. Real Talk Roundtable. I haven't played the theme and I didn't know what was going on. It's Real Talk Roundtable. Live today. I'm sorry if you're watching this on YouTube. It's doing the thing. That's not going to be good. It's not going to be good for YouTube. It's doing the other view. So you might look at you might be seeing Dia and Vera's shoulders today. That'll be cute. Technical problems, but that's okay.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. This is what happens when new technology is released, and we're like, oh, it's available in 2 formats. Okay, there we go. I'm just gonna look at regular YouTube while we're hanging out. We're alive. I think we're alive. Yeah, look, you can see us regularly. Don't watch us flipped weird because that's weird. You don't want to do that. You can see me, and that's okay. That's okay. We're here. Anyway, we're here. Welcome to the roundtable. We're here today literally around a table for my 2 co-hosts today. Vera has a friend. Say hello, Vera.
Hello, Vera.
And who would you like to introduce to the people if they don't know your lovely
I would like
neighbor?
To introduce my darling sister, my younger sister. She says I tell everybody different, but I don't. I just tell them that I'm younger. But
there
she's the younger sister. She is a lifelong educator. She started in public school. She now teaches at the college level, and she served on our local board of education. So when Steve said we were going to talk about education, I thought she'd be a lovely guest.
Oh, thank you.
She would be. She's always got some.
Dia.
There you go. If you can't read, her name is Dia. So Dia's always got some good advice for us as well. It's usually after the show finishes and you see Dia pop her head in. But she's here to join us today. She's joined us before, but it's nice to have her here today. Hi, Jo. Oh my, Jo's excited.
Hey, Jo.
Oh my goodness.
It's my sister.
Hey, there we go. We're keeping it in the family. As we alluded to, and if you hadn't read the title of the show, today's show is all about educating the youth. Because I've got a little fact here. Between 2019 and 2023, anxiety among young adults has nearly tripled. And Gen Z have quickly developed a negative reputation in the workforce. It seems that people don't want to listen to us anymore. We're too old. Oh, I'm not actually. I'm an edgy millennial. Hi. We have a bit of drama post-COVID. But the thing about this article that really caught my attention is at Michigan State University, University of California, Riverside, and JCI Santa Clarita, adulting classes are being introduced to help equip young people with essential life skills.
What kind of classes?
Coping.
Oh, coping.
Adulting 101, they're calling them.
I'm sorry.
So,
forgive me.
These classes include topics like international travel on a budget, mastering a meal plan, navigating life, addressing and handling peer pressure, professionalism, communicate, dress, and deliver with confidence.
Those are all good skills.
Yes, they're set to navigate the complexities of everyday life as an independent adult. My question for you, and I think I am now of a generation removed from what is going on in high schools. This is the stuff that you used to learn at school,
Steven.
right? I'm an elder millennial. I am not Gen. Okay. Oh,
Well,
two actually. Yeah, two.
We're,
Two generations.
we're baby boomers, whether she wants to admit it or not. I'm at the tail end of the baby boom, actually.
You're like
Very
me. You're a
talented.
tail ender.
Talented.
What do you think? What do you think is the answer here? Because if we're getting to college and you don't know some of this stuff, that's a huge problem, I think, for the world moving forward.
Well, it just depends on what your background is. Everyone is not that worldly when they go into college when they're 18 years old. I don't know that I wouldn't have benefited at that age by some of those skills. I certainly, remember my first time traveling by myself and how scary it was. So, I think maybe we understand the need for just some of those skills. So name some of the skills. The skill was traveling internationally.
Yeah, traveling internationally, which is a great one. I think that's something that definitely.
Adults who don't know how to travel internationally.
But there's plenty of adults. Yes, there are plenty of adults who don't, especially traveling with other people. General considerations.
Mm-hmm.
Mastering meal planning.
Not being rude to your host country.
I don't think. I don't think that mastering meal planning is a terrible thing.
No, I don't think so
when
either.
you're in an environment where Uber Eats becomes the way that you think that you feed yourself.
I'm not going to disparage Uber Eats. I'm sorry, I can't.
Well, I don't disparage it either. I'm just saying it's not the only way to acquire a meal.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So I just don't know that these are new skills that are needed. They probably were needed 30 years ago, 40 years ago. It was just that we were unaware of the need or just oblivious to what it was to be 17 or 18 years old. Do
you think maybe it was because it was, as Joe said, parents aren't necessarily showing them these skills anymore?
Well, what if they come from environments where the skills aren't given? What if their first maybe their parents didn't go to college, the first generation college, first time living on your own, so gauge it for who needs it. I mean, it's not something that everyone should need, but some freshmen in college might need some of those skills with different maturity levels and coming from different backgrounds and different
life experiences and stuff like that
well,
as well.
Also, if you come from a 2-income family where both parents work, your mother's going to come home and call for delivery just as often as you are. They're not going to teach you. They're exhausted. They're not going to teach you how to sit down and meal plan. And sometimes meal planning is as simple as buying 5 different frozen pizzas for 5 different nights.
Yeah, I don't know that high schools teach those skills anymore. I mean, when I was in high school, everyone was required to take, this is crazy, not everyone, only the women, the young women were required to take home economics.
See, we did that.
Yeah.
We did that at school. So when I was at school, we had in our first year, in our freshman years, we had to do your version of home ec. So I was just cooking. They called it cooking because Australia is so imaginative. But we also had to do a sewing course. We all had to learn how to hand sew and use a sewing machine. We had to do woodwork and we had to do metalwork. Yep. Those were all necessary things. And we had to pass.
We did home economics. We did cleaning tips, how to clean silver. As we women, we had to know that. We did sewing. We did an advanced sewing every year. We advanced to a higher level of sewing. We did a lot of baking and cooking and learning the fractions of baking. But those were the first classes to get cut when they started cutting education.
Well, I think that too, families are smaller nowadays. So some of those skills that you learned at home, you learned because you had to, teach your younger brothers and sisters or take care of your younger brothers and sisters or the siblings around you. You had more responsibilities in a home life. Our young people don't have those same responsibilities, I don't think.
But yeah, look, and that's fair enough, I guess. But I don't know. I just think that by the time that you are legally an adult, I feel like we're not really serving these kids, because by the time you're legally adult, I guess my parents both worked in the hospitality industry. I learnt how to cook things at an early age, even though it was just me. I was the youngest child, I was the only child for my parents, but I was still able to stay at home by myself and feed myself and know when I was age appropriate how to safely use the stove, how to safely do this, how to X, Y, and Z, and then know what's going on. Because there's a whole lot of kids that these days couldn't cook 2-minute noodles. I don't think if you if you didn't tell them how, because they're not going to read the instructions. Oh my god, it's literally on the packet, kids.
I was going to mention that that's important to know how to read.
Reading is essential.
But
reading is definitely essential.
I think that maybe it's confidence. I think it could be confidence in our young people. Maybe they don't have the same confidence. Maybe that's what we need to engender.
Yeah, isn't that engendering confidence, knowing that you can look after yourself, that you don't have to rely on
knowing
your
that
parents,
you can read.
Knowing that you can read, knowing that if push comes to shove and mum or dad can't be home, that you can have dinner, or and it gets to the point where when I was older, I could prepare dinner for my parents when they were coming home late because they were working.
Dinner all the time.
Exactly.
As the oldest. That was my chore.
Everybody comes from a different home environment. I think that what they're trying to do with the college readiness is to just make sure that everyone has that maturity level, that they can be successful. The reality is that when you get to college, the most important things that happen in that college environment are not academic.
Oh, wait.
Exactly. They are social. They are belonging to a club. They are finding your passions,
finding yourself,
or just trying out a whole bunch of different things, right?
Oh.
And so academics is, yes, the reason, but there's also all of the other social maturing and life maturing that happens in those years of college. So I think that maybe taking some responsibility for those basics and making sure that everybody has the ability not to harm themselves. I mean, because if you don't eat, you're
you can tell that we're very food orientated, can't you? We're just going to eat and we're going to eat and we're going to eat.
I remember the first time I had to call a doctor's office and make an appointment for myself. And I was in college, and it was scary. It was like, and now it's like, oh my God, I gotta call it blessed doctor.
But what do you make of it's like literally a trend where anyone below millennials or even millennials will not call people. They don't feel comfortable talking to people on the phone. If the phone rings, it's like a being latchkey kids of a certain age, we remember don't answer the door. So when someone comes and knocks at the door, you're like, hide. Someone's at the door. That's what they're doing when the phone rings these days. That's a concern for me as someone we are an aging population. You want to know that if you can call someone, they're going to answer and help you, not just go, phone call, run away.
How do you hide from the phone?
Well, these days you don't hide from the phone. I mean, the days of yore, the wall was attached to the phone was attached to the wall, and it rang inside the house. And if you weren't inside the house, you couldn't answer it. Your kid is not going to be answering the parent's phone at this point in time. The kid's only going to be answering their own phone. and they can answer it from anywhere. So there's no guarantee that you're at home. When we were kids and told not to grab the phone, it was because if there was somebody up to no good, they would know that you were home alone at that time or whatever. So it was for different safety reasons. But nowadays, if it's somebody that they don't know, they don't pick up. I don't pick up phone numbers I don't know anymore.
I don't either.
So
it's more, I think it's also the ambivalence of them to actually make the phone call too. Like there was a meme going around that about knocking on people, actually having to go up and knock on someone's door as opposed to text messaging that you're out the front.
Right.
It's like just knock on the door, people.
There's this good point right here about being anxious. I actually just had this conversation with a colleague of mine regarding, and actually my husband and my husband, our heat went out. Now, if you don't know it, we're here in central New York and we're having a little Arctic blast and a lot of snow right now. And unexpectedly in early November, and the heat goes out. Now, I was in between home at work and an outside meeting, another meeting that I had to go to. So I stopped at home. I was going to just, check things out. It's about 2:00 in the afternoon. And there's my husband in the kitchen. And he says to me, the heat's out. And he said, well, I turned on the oven and I made some pancakes. And I said, you call the heat guy? He said, no. Like,
But he solved the problem, dear. He solved the problem. He turned on the oven.
I said, I have to go to another meeting. And he's looking at me like, I'm supposed to call the heat guy. And then, so I go to my other meeting. I tell him how frustrated I am that my husband just didn't call the heat guy for 4 hours. It's Friday afternoon. And my friend says, maybe he's got telephone anxiety and he just can't pick up the phone. He gets nervous when he calls people. And I thought, oh my gosh, my friend. I was like, oh, maybe he does, but jeepers, it's 4 hours and now it's Friday and now the heat guy can't get here until Monday. It's like,
you gotta have a cold weekend.
Yeah, so he said, I thought you would like to, chime in or talk to John, is the person who does our heat. So, but I do think that there is a certain amount of anxiety with doing things that you don't know how to do or that you're not competent to do. And Lord knows my husband's long since his college years. So.
All right, so I've got a statement from a spokesperson from Michigan State to explain the whole thing. The main goal of the program is to provide education and resources that help individuals, especially teens and young adults, navigate the complexities of everyday life as an independent adult. We try to focus on practical life skills often not taught in a traditional class. We have found some of the most popular classes relate to financial literacy, credit, investing, banking, and budgeting. Since this program started in 2019, we have had an amazing attendance, overall ranging from 50 to 1,000 attendees in each session, which is huge. Well, and something that particular financial literacy thing is, I think, something that definitely needs to be probably really addressed, especially with this modern generation that have the buy now, pay laters and all that kind of stuff, college debt that you don't look at, you just go, you sign away and go, yep, I'll deal with it later on, and you deal with it for the rest of your life, and it's just lingering above you.
Well, times have changed because the most popular course at Syracuse University when I was there was human sexuality, and you couldn't get in that course. There was only like 2 sections every semester, and there was like in a 300-person
classroom.
Yeah, 300-person lecture hall, and you could only get it if you were a senior because you had to have registration early, right? You got earlier registration, and so times have changed about what we're curious about, I guess.
Yeah, everyone was trying to get laid. Now everyone's just trying to make sure that they survive.
Things that you learn at home versus the things we all knew how to cook. The things that we didn't know how to cook.
Right.
It was different. It was a totally different
I have a little
Class
meme
was
here
called
that I think.
Brainecology.
Yeah,
That
right.
was not what it was called.
That's what we called it on campus.
All right, I've got a little
went-
meme here.
Oh,
Let's see if we agree. Things I never learnt in high school: how to do taxes, what taxes are, how to vote, how to write a resume/cover letter, anything to do with banking, how to apply for loans for college, how to buy a car or a house. But thank the lucky stars, I can tell you all about Pythagorean theorem.
well, you know that I'm a math teacher.
I know. I thought you'd love that. I
You
thought
knew
you'd
this
really
was gonna
like
fire
that.
Me up. Well,
I
you
thought
do
you'd
need
love
to
it.
know how to do the Pythagorean theorem, but you also do need to know how to write a check. I was well out of college before I ever wrote my first check. So I do agree. And actually, we have a younger sister. Our younger sister, Lisa, said to me, "I can't believe you don't know how to write a check, Dia." And she showed me how to write out a check. And certainly, I didn't know anything about credit when I graduated from college.
But so
I can't
important,
believe you don't know
right?
how to write a check. Grandma Rose taught me.
Oh, well, Vera, you're the oldest, so.
You're the
you
oldest.
learned
You're check
everything.
responsible, Vera. You're check responsible.
Yeah, I did not. I did not know how
Joe
to write.
agrees. But I think that that's, again, super important. How financing and banking, like being responsible for your own personal finances and understanding how to budget for a household, how to budget at all, full stop, and understanding incoming and outgoing finances. But it's also, so Vera, we've talked about this on UCR Live, just the understanding of the political structure is something that people don't get anymore either. It's not something that you learn. You guys had civics class, I'm sure.
Yeah,
Had to do all that.
well, they were all cut out with budget cuts.
No,
So
used
it's
to,
gone the
back
way
in the
of
day. Back
the
in the day.
dinosaur. Civics has gone the way of the dinosaur.
So, and we are suffering for it right now in the United States, the lack of civics education, the lack of critical thinking skills. There's lots of things that we lack in our education that have led to the political conundrum we find ourselves in. And one of them is not knowing how to vote. You know, I can't tell you the number of, I teach math at the college level, at a junior college, freshman and sophomore, first and second year college students. But many of them do not vote. They have not been registered to vote. There are a whole bunch of, very complex systems and politics involved. There is also voter suppression that happens. Voter suppression doesn't necessarily happen when somebody stands in front of you in a voting line. It happens when you don't know how to vote. Your culture has not prepped you to do it as your civic duty, and you don't understand it as your civic duty. And so
Right.
many of those issues surrounding voting right now are playing themselves out in our current politics.
Joe makes a very good point. I'll bring it up. Not knowing the difference between socialism and communism.
Yes,
Very
I
much so.
very much so. I can't tell you how many people can't tell the difference.
Well, and certainly they don't understand democracy if they're not voting.
Right.
Right,
So,
and that's
so socialism and communism, but also the issue of democracy, that you have a say. I think that the first time that Donald Trump got elected, it was, who's the Raging Cajun, Vera? The Raging.
Oh yeah.
The political guy from Arkansas, and he was a political advisor for Bill Clinton. But right after the first time that Donald Trump got elected, he said, like the day after, he said the United States is about to have a group civics class. All of the population of the United States is about to have a crash course in civics. And I think that people are much more aware than they were 9 years ago, actually, 2016, right? So
I think it's definitely getting better, but just the conversation that we seem to have every election, and I've been doing the show now long enough that we've been through a couple together, and the aftermath of, in Australia, when you are a legal adult, it is mandatory for you to vote. You will be fined if you do not vote. It's part of your, I guess, obligation as an adult citizen in this country. My biggest issue with what's going on over there is a lot of people going, "Oh, I hate this person, and I hate this person, and this candidate, and this party," and then you ask them if they vote. Oh, no, I didn't vote. You don't get to complain about the system if you don't participate in it, is my opinion. So if you're willing to let anyone run your country and dictate the way that you live, shouldn't you be involved in selecting that person and making sure that your rights and your beliefs are part of the mix-up, and then not just go, "Oh, too hard. It's not my problem. I didn't vote for him." I think that we really need to, especially with younger people, make them understand that with that responsibility is power to change the way that the world operates, and you can be a part of it, and it is a powerful thing, and not just throw your hands up and feel like you're useless and it's hopeless and you're just a cog in the machine.
Do you have a process of registration where you are? Are you automatically qualified? Period.
When you become a legal adult, you are obligated to vote. So when you reach 18 years of age here, you are legally required to vote, and you are issued a fine if you do not vote.
And I suppose that there are people who are derelict in their duty and that don't vote, and that probably are, they don't get thrown in voters' prison, do they? I mean,
no,
what
it's
happens
usually just I think it's usually just a financial thing, like you get a fee charged to you, a fine.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So I missed that comment right there. Somebody threw
it. That was Joe. She says, "I agree, no vote, no say." Look, it's not necessarily no vote, no. $50. It's only $50. Oh, come on, people. I'm not voting next election then. That's such a hassle to go to get polling. I'm not voting. If it's $50, I'll just work an extra hour or something. It'll be like,
I think it's so much fun. I like to vote. I like to go. Yeah. I like to get my little sticker. We get stickers that say I voted. Yeah.
You are a political animal. We're aware. She loves it. She's all about it, ladies and gentlemen. She thrives in it.
Political animal, yeah. Everybody is a political animal if they have an "I voted" sticker on. I think that's actually the truth, right? You are.
Yeah, well, everyone likes to feel included, though. Sorry, continue.
I was just gonna say, so my ability, I organize politically, so I know that you and Vera know that, but other people don't know that. But I do look up people's registration if they mouth off on Facebook. I do have the ability and the knowledge. I go and I look it up, and I'll say to Vera will get in a heated argument with somebody on Facebook. I'm like, don't argue, they don't even vote.
Insider knowledge. I love it. I love a bit of insider knowledge.
Around the corner from our house, there's this obnoxious corner where there's lots of just awful flags up that say, F this, F that person, F this person, and they there's 30 flags in the yard and whatever. Finally, I said to Vera, you know what? I looked up that address. Nobody in that house is registered to vote there. They might be registered at a different address that I don't know, but there's nobody who lives at that address that votes. So when you go by, who cares? Put up your flags.
Yeah. Just screaming into the void for no reason.
Making
Sound and
America
fury
greater
signifying nothing.
Every Social Security check.
But they've only learned to complain. They haven't learned to vote. There's been no civics education.
They don't understand the process, which I think I remember back when I was a teenager, and again, not American, just very kind of informed on the culture. The Rock the Vote thing was a huge movement, MTV, all that kind of stuff, trying to get younger people involved in the political process and understanding that they have that involvement / right to be involved and to make their voices heard, to make a difference. I think that especially in this political climate, that needs to be pushed even further and say
I
if we
think it
don't
is.
like these things.
I think we're seeing that. I think the
Yeah.
election of Mamdani in New York City has been a massive younger voter movement. I think that I read somewhere the statistics for voter turnout, the highest group of voter turnout at this last election was women under 35.
And that's
Wow.
awesome. And we need
You
to
know?
keep your foot
We
on the
need to
gas,
keep the
considering where
momentum,
you guys
yes.
are headed.
Yeah.
We're starting all over again. It's time to keep the foot on the gas and keep people involved and understanding that if you are not happy with the way things are unfolding, that the people do have power, as helpless as it feels sometimes. There is power in your vote.
What I think is interesting is the things on the list, right, that you had.
Yeah.
One of the things on the list is paying your taxes. Well, that's another thing that is a reason to know how to vote. If I'm paying taxes and people are doing stuff with my taxes,
where does
I
it
need
go?
to make sure I have a say and the connection between the two. And I think they should also know the connection between that and the Pythagorean theorem, because
we're gonna start a separate podcast called Dia Loves Pythagoras, and she's just gonna inform us.
Pythagoras is an interesting story. You know, his one of his students was put to death because he disagreed with Pythagoras. Did you know that?
Wow.
Yes,
I did not know that.
His name
there we
was
go.
Hippicus. Hippicus actually discovered irrational numbers. The Pythagoreans were not that sophisticated, so they only understood Pythagorean triples, like 3, 4, 5, right? Those are things that go perfectly into the Pythagorean theorem. But they didn't understand that how other numbers fit in. And so Hippicus told Pythagoras, hey, there's all these other numbers. They're irrational, right? He didn't call them irrational. I just threw that in. But because they are. But anyway, when he disagreed with Pythagoras, but the other students were so ashamed for him that they took him out in the ocean and they threw him off a boat.
Now, and that's why we're all called hypocrites, obviously.
Well, I think that if somebody taught him to swim in high school,
yeah, phys ed's important.
Might have had a different ending.
Right. All right, so we're going to move on from high school. We're going to move on to, I guess, a little bit of stuff we learn at home. This story was a little bit of a social media blitz here in Australia. I did post it on the UCR live page, but I'd love to get your opinion because, as you said, Dia, you're an educator, but you're also a mommy. So you know, and we know Vera takes her aunt duties very, very seriously. I'm going to post this up so you guys can have a look at it. So this is from a venue called Laguna Blue Bar and Dining in Port Stephens, New South Wales, and gained national attention when an outraged mother shared a sign on TikTok that read, "We appreciate well-behaved children and require them to remain seated at all times. And thanks the customers for the understanding in the matter." The original poster said she believed the sign was a bit blunt, to argue it was somewhat unrealistic with expectations for children to be seated, especially toddlers. Others have disagreed, many saying children need to be kept under control. What do we think about that? I have some feelings as somebody who spent a lot of time in the industry of food services and hospitality about children, and I still work with children, and I still have a lot of opinions. Vera, you look like you have
I just
desire.
Last week went out to dinner with one of my friends for her birthday. We were at a pretty expensive restaurant, and there was a child screaming through the entire meal. Now, I get the children scream. I get you can't, but you do take them out of the restaurant, if they're disrupting the rest of the dining room.
Exactly, because I'm always in a popular opinion here. Yes, I have a strong belief that we should empower children to express their opinions and all that kind of stuff. Yes, yes, yes. It doesn't mean it's always valid or always appropriate, and there needs to be an understanding of spaces that require you to adhere to some kind of societal norm, even if you're going to homeschool your kids and never brush their hair and it's okay for them to swear and all this kind of stuff. There
You have
comes a
different
time.
homeschoolers than we have.
I know. I'm just putting out there. You know those almond mums where they're like, oh no, my child has the right to express themselves wherever. They don't though, because as Vera has famously said on our show, the question of rights, your rights end where mine begins. So like, it's that kind of thing. If you can't understand, I'm just thinking again, as a child of hospitality people, there is a certain, or there used to be, and I think it's partly because of this thing here that it's gone away, because everyone rips out their phone as soon as somebody half misbehaves, and then they want to put on a show and go viral because they're screaming and throwing hot coffee at McDonald's workers. But there is an expected behavior when you're going to, for example, a sit down restaurant, as opposed to a fast food restaurant, as opposed to a food court in a mall, as opposed to eating at home in the backyard or in the. You can't do whatever you want whenever you want to, is my feeling.
I think that note was harsh, but I do think that you can't start to teach your children manners in a restaurant. If they're acting like this at a dinner table at home, right?
That's when it starts.
That's when it starts, right? If you take your children out to restaurants, they will know the appropriate behavior. I always took my son to restaurants, but he knew how to behave when we were there, when we were at home, but I also took him to parks where he could act differently. There's different types of behavior in different social settings. I think that once in a while that some children are going to act out without the control of their parents.
Oh, there's always an outlier. There's always an outlier.
I also was in food and beverage for many years. It's actually one of my longest careers.
You understand from a restaurant/service point of view that it is dangerous for kids to be running around unchecked in restaurants where hot food, sharp knives, drinks, glasses, all that kind of stuff. Their parents aren't paying attention. The child can be injured. The worker can be injured. The general public can be injured, all because your kid doesn't know how to sit down and be quiet.
Yeah, I think that, again, it depends on the what type of event you are at.
Yeah.
If you're at a Christmas party, where I worked on the banquet side of the house, so I always was the extra help. They called me in at Christmas time and over the summer and that sort of thing. And I never was on the fine dining side of the house, but we were in a big room that served parties between 100 and 300 people, and sometimes some of the social gatherings were appropriate for children. A big Christmas party with an extended family or something like that, and you've got all sorts of kids and they're ordering all sorts of Coca-Cola.
Well, depending on the kids,
What kind of parties are you working?
I know, right?
Where was our invite, dear?
But the thing is that the owner of the business would say, every one of those kids in that room's got to get married someday. So serve them, be polite to them, but it was appropriate for them to be at that type of party. Or maybe there's some kids at a wedding that it's more of a family gathering and a private affair. So they would act a little differently than, say, in a fine dining room. And then again, there's the question of why are the parents taking child who might be a little bit more, need a little bit more exercise, I guess, to a fine dining establishment.
To a sit down.
Yeah, it's just, again, you got to know if your child's able to handle that social situation.
100, and I think there for just piggybacking off what you said earlier about Matthias. When I was a child, I've told this story many times on the show too. I was actually quite a shy child and wouldn't say anything to anyone, wouldn't ask for anything. And part of my big life education was when we did go out for meals, and we did go out a lot because obviously parents in hospitality, I would have to order for the table. If I wanted something, I would have to ask for it. I would have to go and order it for myself and it empowered me to be able to speak to anyone about anything because I can understand and how to do it respectfully. Because I'd look at some people barking orders at retail assistants and waiters and waitresses and fast food staff, and you're like, well, you've never been on the other side of that, have you? You don't understand what it is to deal with that all day, every day, and to have to just grin and bear it for the paycheck. But it was a very important thing.
People don't realize how that reflects on them. How they treat a waiter or a waitress, and if they're being rude in front of, in that kind of formal setting. I mean, really, some people are just so rude and terrible too. They say that integrity test, right? How you want to know how, if somebody has integrity, watch how they treat the wait staff. Watch how they treat the people around them. Watch how they treat people in a retail environment,
Especially when they're not getting what they want.
Yeah.
That's the key. Or something's wrong. That's a big key for me.
Right.
It's like,
So sometimes it's an issue of maturity. Maybe you're 18 years old and you haven't taken that class that teaches you how to do things.
It all ties together, do you? You see what I'm doing here? You see what I'm doing here? Yeah. As Joe said, and the restaurant putting up the sign is probably after people, out of control kids come up, upset many other customers, mad families are in the minority. Yeah, that's true. And at the end of the day, if you don't like a sign, then you don't have to stay there. You don't have to give that person your money. And if they're not going to appreciate, we've covered something very similar to this a few times on UCL Live, but
if you're there,
your money talks.
Somebody's acting out and nobody's addressing it, not the wait staff, not the management, not the parent.
Someone go tap the sign.
Then you're gonna use your money and not come back to that restaurant.
100%.
I have seen the sign in much more casual establishments. It says
unattended
children will be sold as slaves.
Yeah,
unattended children will be sold.
Topical.
I also saw one that said unattended children will be fed sugar and given a free cat.
Yeah, I've seen that one as well. I have seen that one.
Good one.
So we've gone college age, we've gone home age. There is a breaking news story here in Australia today that I would love to get your opinion on. So the Victorian government will seek to implement adult jail sentences for children as young as 14 and over who commit serious violent crimes due to rising crime statistics in that state.
Now, where is Victoria in?
That way, away from me.
Is it outback? Is it rural?
Well, outback is. There's not really a lot of people. It's coastal-ish, we'll say. It's big enough to bridge the gap.
Okay.
Big enough to bridge the gap from everything's coastal here in Australia because it's hot.
Okay.
So under the changes, maximum jail sentence will be raised from 3 years to life in the case of aggravated home invasions and aggravated carjacking by young offenders. I'm going to give you the list of crimes that will be, I guess, what do we call them? That could result in adult jail sentences. So aggravated home invasion, intentionally causing injury in circumstances of gross violence, including machete crime, which is a huge thing here at the moment. Machete crime is
Wow.
what's going on. Yeah.
Wow.
Recklessly causing injury in circumstances of gross violence, including machete crimes, aggravated carjacking, aggravated burglary, serious and repeated, and armed robbery, serious and repeated. What do we think about adult time for people as young as 14 years old?
Uh,
I have a rough time with this, and
I do too.
I understand the theory that you have to create that deterrent, that the punishment will be harsh. Please don't do it. But my heart breaks for here in the United States, teenagers are charged with drunk driving, and they get horrible 25-year sentences for manslaughter for a mistake they made before their brain was fully formed.
I think that it has to be a case-by-case basis, and it should be more rare than it is common. It sounds like the problem with what is being forced here is that when you what do I want to say, when you codify something like that, then that means it's going to be more commonly used than
Yep.
rarely used. I think at 14, as my sister said, young people's brains aren't fully developed. I mean, we know that they can't even make their meals. You're telling me that, you know, they're not able to make good decisions. But there are those instances where something is just so vile. I mean, machete crime, that shocks me. That's something I never heard of, but I can imagine what it is. But these are vile, heinous things that I'm
And
listening
this is the
to.
thing. Yeah, this is the thing. So people are frustrated because these kids are repeat offenders, because they know that whatever they do, they're not going to get a serious repercussion from it, because they are children until they turn, well, depending on the state and depending on what you do, legal age of adulthood here is 18 years old. So anything below that, they're getting away with stuff like carjacking, like violent crimes, attacking people, doing very adult things. I think physical violence is a shocking thing, but physical violence with a weapon shows intent.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You don't pick up a weapon to not hurt someone.
These are just, you know, I can't really wrap my head around it.
Yeah. So as Joe says, the majority of these young criminals are South Sudanese. So of course it creates a problem in Melbourne, because it's where a majority of the Sudanese immigrants immigrate to, because their family are there. But it's not necessarily just an immigrant crime, because you guys are definitely dealing with that, with the whole ICE situation there. The amount of I work in a shopping center, a shopping mall. The amount of Anglo-Saxon white presenting children that are shoplifting, that are abusing people, that are getting physically violent with not only other teenagers but with adults and security are high. It's a problem. It's a definite problem that they know that they are the first ones to yell and scream, "You can't touch me! You're not allowed to touch me!" Rah rah rah. Rah. Like, they know their rights, and there's no repercussions for what they're doing. So how do you fix that?
I think that there are repercussions here. I am no criminal justice expert, but I do think that there are ways that youthful offenders are handled that are differently. But I think that there are pretty harsh penalties, but they're just handled differently. They're not going to put them into the general population in a state prison or something like that. But there are harsh penalties for youthful offenders here in the States, but I would imagine that it's highly local. And again, I don't know anything about any of these laws, and I guess I'm able to have my privilege and not be aware of what these laws are.
It's a troubling thing because it seems to be on the rise. Here there was a 70-year-old grandmother who was stabbed in a car park and died
How awful.
the other day at a shopping mall by a teenager. So what? That teenager committed an adult crime. You don't stab somebody unprovoked without a weapon, without the intent to do some damage to somebody.
Yeah.
And that is a crime. That is an adult crime, and that should face adult time. Yeah, that's me.
And some
That's
psychiatric counseling as well, jeepers, to say the least.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just, I don't mean to be
Mm-hmm.
glib. I'm not trying to be glib with that, but
No, not at all. Because this is part of what we say, like we say on the show all the time. Mental health is a big proponent of any kind of crime. You've got to understand where people are coming from. As we talked about with the college, everyone has their own very unique home life that does bleed through into your social interactions. And not everyone comes from a great place,
Well,
that's why there are
I was
things
going to
like
say,
those
I
things.
imagine that a Sudanese refugee is fleeing a war-torn country.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
And there are programs in
Not
place,
that makes it
as
right
saying.
to commit a crime.
No.
You know, if that's what they've learned by example.
100%. And that's why there are programs, mentorships to understand that, we can exist in a peaceful society where violence isn't necessarily the answer, despite we're gonna look at all these kids that are growing up in the Palestine conflict. What are they gonna know of the world? How do you rationalize that to them when they become adults, and what do they teach their children?
What a world we live in. We were talking at the start of this show about kids who have issues just making a meal, and now we're talking about kids of similar age that are acting out in violent ways, and wow, what an extreme from one
and that's part of the reason why I wanted to do the show, because there is such a disparity all over the world about what and how we teach our children, what's appropriate, and how we make them best suited to the world that they're going to inherit. Because at the end of the day, they are going to inherit a world that is very damaged from past results, but they are,
and it is a world we are creating too.
100%. So how do we work that?
I remember during the Afghani war reading an article about the children, and one of the children said, we learned, and it stuck with me all these years. I mean, the Afghani war was 20 years ago. You learn to fear sunny days, because on a cloudy day you can see the drone and you know when to get under cover, but on a sunny day you can't see them. And that has stuck with me. It's like, the world that we leave our children, we are as responsible as they are. So
or more so. One of the things that's happening in our world was the abrupt cutoff of USAID, which is soft power, humanitarian work that minimizes hate, right? Because if you're 8 years old, if you're 10 years old and you are starving, then you become prey to all of the hate that's in the world. There, all sorts of things. So USAID was something that fed the poor, that gave them medicine, that helped to alleviate some of the ills in the world with the assistance of the United States. The abrupt cutoff of that creates hate. It creates hate. It's not, now we don't have this soft power because people are hating us, hating us, the United States, because at the hands of our privilege, that that's what your privilege doesn't help me out. It just creates,
And I think
so
to that point, that power shows that you can have empathy. You may not be in the same situation, but you can empathize, you can sympathize with somebody who has less than or has a different experience of, and still want to help them despite being in a different situation. And that's what that kind of thing is showing, especially with look at the SNAP benefits drama that we're going through at the moment. There's very little empathy / sympathy there for people in their own situations.
I know that the mainstream media is not showing it, but it is on social media. The amount of person-to-person goodwill is amazing.
And that's, I was about to say, it's forcing it to come from the ground level now.
There are people reaching out so that no one starves.
Well,
we've got sorry, just to interrupt really quickly. There is a lovely our former panelist who is the voice of the roundtable, the lovely Angel, who is doing some great stuff as well for food pantries and stuff. I've seen on her social media. She's like, it's coming from a ground level as opposed from the government. It's the people showing the power that we want to have empathy. This is the world we want to live in.
True, but one of the statistics is that for every meal that a food pantry provides, there are 9 meals that the SNAP benefits provide. So even though people are reaching out and they are pushing the capacity of these food pantries, this is not what they were meant to do. Widespread need is not what they were meant to do. And so regardless of how good the people are, the United States government is probably playing with fire when you start to talk about hungry people. I mean, Marie Antoinette found out in the hard way.
She did. She did.
It doesn't work out well. It doesn't work out for people. When you keep them hungry and make them angry, it doesn't really work out well for the people in power.
Politically ever. So
maybe somebody needs to find out that the hard way.
I hope that we are moving toward. I think that we are moving toward a better place this week politically, but what Maya Angelou said it right. She said, "You might not remember. You'll remember the way they made you feel when your hardworking mom or dad had to go to the food pantry and there was nothing on the shelves. That's how you're going to feel. You'll remember this." And some of our leaders are, you can see the polls just going down. The polls don't mean anything. We'll see how this plays out politically. There's other means of oppression that are happening here that have nothing to do with popularity polls or even voting. But again, these are things that our young people are dealing with that perhaps none of us have had to deal with before as a result of what's happening in our world. And
so I think to wrap it all up, from every story that we've talked about, whether it be college age kids at home, or this younger generation that is trying to find its way in a world that is very confusing, scary, dangerous, that the old adage is true, that it does take a village to raise a child, and you have to really gather around, and we all play a part in raising children, whether they are your biological children or whether you're an aunt, an uncle, a coach, someone's best friend. Everyone in their life plays a part in educating that child and raising them to become the adult that they will hopefully become and put good into the world. So I have been involved in countless children's lives now from my other job, and there are responsibilities that you can teach them, and there are lessons that you can teach them without having to be a formal education setting. I think putting good intention out is the way to ensure that good intention eventually flourishes, right? And flowers within these kids.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So I think we can put a bow on that. I think we've Barbara Walters our way into that. That was a very hectic ride around the drama of modern childhood.
As we
But
move
nothing
closer to the
is simple.
Christmas season, we'll put a bow on it.
We'll put a bow. Oh, we got Christmas coming. We do got Christmas coming. Thank you for reminding me. But it's always good to that these discussions always open doors that you don't expect them to. And as I said, we've gone all over the place, but the commonalities are very obvious and stark. We have to be good people in order to create good people, and that's the hope that you got to. At the end of the day, once we're all in the ground or in space or in a rock or whatever, wherever you're going, you hope that you've done enough, right? And we hope that we've done a little bit today. Thank you for joining us, Dia. It's always nice to have you join us and to know a little bit more about Pythagoras,
And Hickoris or Hickus or whatever his name is.
Hipparchus.
I'm always here for your historic math reference.
Oh, there we go. She's going to start her own podcast, I swear. Thank you for joining me as well. The lovely Vera. I'm sure you'll be back on Thursday. She's always got some feelings.
I do.
She's bubbling. She's starting to bubble now, I can tell. It's a little
chilly in this window, so we'll work the vent.
We've got to move it. Got to move to get heated. But we'll be back with UCR live on Thursday/Friday and more stuff coming at you next week. Thank you for joining us around the round table, and we'll see you again soon. Be nice and create good human beings.